Cleveland, Ohio, July 25, 1916. 250 feet below Lake Erie, an explosion rips through a construction tunnel. Natural gas ignites. The blast traps 32 workers underground. Smoke chokes every breath. Toxic fumes turn the tunnel into a death chamber. Above ground, rescue crews gather at the tunnel entrance. But no one can go down. The air itself has become poison. Fire chiefs stand helpless. Every minute that passes, men are dying in the darkness below. Then a black man arrives carrying two strange canvas hoods. His name is Garrett Morgan. He's not a firefighter. He's not city rescue. He's an inventor. And he's about to do something that will change his life forever, though not in the way anyone expects. But before Garrett Morgan could save lives, he first had to learn something far more difficult. He had to learn how to survive in a country that didn't want him to succeed. Garrett Augustus Morgan was born in 1877 in Paris, Kentucky. His parents had been enslaved. They gained freedom, but not wealth, not land, not access to the institutions that built generational success. Garrett received a sixth-grade education. That was all the formal schooling the world offered him. At 14, he left the farm. He walked north toward opportunity, towards cities where a black man might be able to build something. He landed in Cincinnati, working odd jobs, watching, learning. He noticed that men with skills had leverage. Men who could fix things, build things, understand how machines worked. Those men had value that was harder to dismiss. So Garrett hired a tutor with money he couldn't spare. He studied English grammar at night after exhausting factory shifts. He taught himself the logic of mechanics, the language of gears and tension and motion. By 1895, he moved to Cleveland and found work at Roots and McBride Company, a sewing machine manufacturer. He didn't just work there. He studied every machine. He understood them so completely that he could take them apart and rebuild them better. By 1907, Garrett opened his own sewing machine repair shop. 2 years later, he started the Morgan Skirt Factory, manufacturing clothing. He was building, piece by piece, a foundation. But he was still dependent on white suppliers, white customers, white capital. He needed something more. He needed independence. That independence arrived by accident. While working in his shop, Garrett was experimenting with a liquid compound. He wanted to polish sewing machine needles, keep them from burning the woolen fabric they stitched at high speed. He applied the solution to a piece of wire cloth made from pony fur. Hours later, he noticed something strange. The fibers had straightened. He tested it on himself. The solution worked as a hair straightener. Within months, Garrett established the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company. The product sold wildly throughout the black community. It wasn't just a cosmetic business. It was financial liberation. This is the part of the story people miss. The hair cream wasn't a side hustle. It was the key to everything that followed. Because in early 1900s America, black inventors faced a brutal economic trap. Banks wouldn't lend to them. White investors wouldn't fund them. Even in Cleveland, a northern city with a history of relative progressiveness, the walls were closing in. Between 1910 and 1920, Cleveland's black population increased by over 300% due to the Great Migration. More black people meant more white fear. Housing became scarce and expensive. Banks used restrictive covenants. Real estate brokers wouldn't show black families' homes in certain neighborhoods. The police department refused to hire black officers. Even Euclid Beach Park, a recreation spot, only allowed black residents on designated days. Garrett Morgan understood the equation. He couldn't build a business empire on white goodwill, so he built it on black dollars. The hair refining company generated enough profit that he never had to beg a white banker for a loan. That independence meant freedom. Freedom to pursue what really mattered to him. And what mattered to him was saving lives. 400 miles east of Cleveland, in New York City, March 25, 1911, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory catches fire. 146 garment workers die. Most of them are young women, immigrants, Jews, and Italians. They die because the factory owners locked the exit doors to prevent theft. When the fire starts on the 8th floor, the women have nowhere to go. Some try to escape down the elevator shafts. Others break windows and jump. Firefighters arrive, but their ladders only reach the 6th floor. People on the street watch young women choose between burning alive and falling 10 stories to the pavement. Bodies hit the ground like thunder. The factory owners are tried for manslaughter. They're acquitted. Each victim's family receives $75 in compensation. The owners later collect a large insurance payout. Garrett Morgan reads about the Triangle Fire. He reads about the smoke, about the workers who died not from flames, but from suffocation. He thinks about the firefighters who couldn't reach them in time, who had to stand outside and watch people die. He thinks, what if there's a way to breathe through the smoke? What if rescue workers could walk into burning buildings and pull people out? He gets to work. By 1912, Garrett files a patent for a breathing device he calls the safety hood. The design is elegant. A canvas hood fits over the head and shoulders. 2 tubes extend from the hood down to the ground, where smoke is less dense and air is cooler. A wet sponge filters out toxins. The wearer can breathe safely, even in environments choked with smoke or gas. But patents are just paper. Garrett needs proof. He builds a canvas tent, fills it with toxic fumes, and walks inside wearing his hood. He stays there for 20 minutes. When he emerges, he's unharmed. He demonstrates the hood at safety expositions, chambers of commerce, industrial conventions. In 1914, his invention wins first prize at the Second International Exposition of Safety and Sanitation. Orders start coming in. Fire departments in cities across America buy the hood. New York City places an order. 500 municipalities express interest. For a moment, it seems like merit might actually matter. That a good invention, a life-saving invention, could succeed on its own terms. And then comes the test. July 25, 1916. Workers drilling beneath Lake Erie strike a pocket of natural gas. The explosion is massive. Dust and toxic fumes fill the tunnel. 32 men are trapped underground. The call goes out for rescue, but the situation is impossible. Anyone who enters the tunnel will suffocate within minutes. Someone remembers Garrett Morgan. Someone remembers the breathing device. A messenger rushes to his house. Garrett grabs 2 of his safety hoods and races to the scene with his brother, Frank. When they arrive, rescue crews are standing at the tunnel entrance, paralyzed. The fire chief looks at the hoods with skepticism. He's never seen anything like them. But men are dying down there, and no one else has a solution. Garrett and Frank pull the hoods over their heads. They check the filters, adjust the straps. Then they descend into the smoke. The tunnel is hell. Visibility is 0. The air is choked with gas and dust. Bodies lie crumpled on the ground. Garrett and Frank move through the darkness, feeling their way forward. They find 2 workers still alive, barely conscious. They drag them toward the surface. Then they go back down. They recover 4 bodies. When Garrett emerges from the tunnel for the final time, pulling a dead man behind him, the crowd erupts. The Cleveland Plain Dealer runs the story on the front page. Garrett Morgan is a hero. The city awards him the Medal of Bravery. The International Association of Fire Engineers makes him an honorary member. Orders for the safety hood pour in from fire departments nationwide. For a few weeks, Garrett Morgan experiences what it feels like to be recognized, to have your work acknowledged, to be seen as a man of genius and courage. Then the photographs are published, and everything changes. The Cleveland Gazette publishes photographs of Garrett Morgan. His face appears in newspapers across the country. People see the hero of the tunnel rescue. They see his name. They see his skin. And Southern fire departments start canceling their orders. Atlanta Fire Department, $5,000. Canceled. The city clerk explains that they've discovered the inventor is Negro. They'd rather use wet towels than buy a device created by a black man. Other cities follow. Orders canceled. Contract voided. The reason is always the same. Not because the device doesn't work. It works perfectly. It saves lives. But it was invented by a black man, and that is unacceptable. This is the mathematics of Jim Crow. Public safety is negotiable. White supremacy is not. Garrett applies for the Carnegie Medal, one of the highest civilian honors in America, given to individuals who risk their lives to save others. He descended into a gas-filled tunnel and pulled men from death. The criteria are clear. The heroism is undeniable. He's denied the medal. Local officials work to minimize his role in the rescue. They suggest that the real heroes were the white firefighters who went down after him, though those firefighters only entered the tunnel because Garrett proved it could be done. The lesson is brutal and clear. Your achievement means nothing. Your heroism means nothing. Your life-saving invention means nothing. All that matters is your race. And your race disqualifies you from success. Garrett sits in his office, surrounded by canceled contracts. He thinks about the men still dying in fires across the South. He thinks about the firefighters who need his device, but will never buy it because of who he is. He has a choice. He can fight. He can demand recognition. He can sue, protest, make noise. Or he can disappear. Garrett Morgan hires a white actor. His name is Alcott. He's handsome, clean-cut, well-spoken. Garrett pays him to pose as the inventor of the safety hood. At demonstrations and expositions, Alcott wears a suit and stands at the front of the room, explaining the device's mechanics as if he designed it. Garrett transforms himself into Big Chief Mason. He wears a costume meant to evoke Native American imagery. He becomes the exotic assistant, the non-threatening sidekick. At each demonstration, Alcott introduces him. Then Garrett, as Big Chief Mason, puts on the hood and walks into chambers filled with toxic smoke. He stays inside for 20 minutes, proving the device works. The crowds applaud Alcott's genius. Garrett suffocates behind the mask, literally and figuratively. The advertisement for the safety hood feature photographs of white male models. Not Garrett. Never Garrett. His own invention is marketed as if he doesn't exist. And it works. Sales resume. Fire departments across the country, including in the South, buy the device. Firefighters and rescue workers save lives using Garrett Morgan's technology. But Garrett is erased from the story. Every demonstration is a wound. Every performance of Big Chief Mason is an act of self-destruction. He is the inventor, the genius, the hero who walked into the tunnel. But to make his invention succeed, to fulfill its humanitarian purpose, he must pretend to be someone else. He must watch a white man take credit for his mind's work. He must bow and perform and hide. He writes in his diary, "I had but a little schooling, but I am a graduate from the school of hard knocks and cruel treatment." This is the invisible tax of black genius in America. You can create something world-changing. You can save lives, but you cannot be seen doing it. The price of impact is erasure. The price of saving others is losing yourself. Garrett continues the charade for years because lives depend on it. But the cost is unbearable. In 1923, Garrett witnesses a traffic accident. A car collides with a horse-drawn carriage. A young girl is injured. The streets of Cleveland are chaos. Automobiles are new, fast, unpredictable. The existing traffic signals only have two positions: stop and go. There's no warning, no transition. Drivers approach intersections at full speed, unsure if the signal will change. Collisions are frequent. Deaths are common. Garrett, one of the first black men in Cleveland to own an automobile, sees the problem clearly. The two-position signal is a death trap. What's needed is a third position, a warning, a moment of caution between stop and go. He designs a three-position traffic signal. The innovation is simple but revolutionary. Before the light turns red, it first turns yellow. Drivers have time to slow down, to prepare, to stop safely. The yellow light becomes the language of transition, of warning, of space to think. Garrett patents the invention in 1923, and then he does something different. He doesn't perform. He doesn't demonstrate. He doesn't market it himself. He sells the patent rights to General Electric for $40,000. Is it enough? Probably not. General Electric will make millions from the invention. But Garrett doesn't care. He's learned his lesson from the safety hood. The market will never treat him fairly. White companies will never acknowledge his genius publicly. So he takes the money and exits cleanly. $40,000 in 1923 is significant wealth. It's financial security. It's peace. And perhaps most importantly, it's a transaction that allows him to contribute to public safety without the humiliation of the mask. No performances, No big chief mason. Just a sale, a contract, and a quiet exit. The three-position traffic signal spreads across America, then across the world. Every intersection governed by a yellow light is operating on Garrett Morgan's principle. Millions of lives are saved. But how many people know his name? Garrett has one invention left in him, and this one isn't mechanical. Around 1920, Garrett founds a newspaper. He calls it the Cleveland Call. It's dedicated to covering news, religious events, social life, and business achievements within the Black community. Eventually, it merges with another publication and becomes the Cleveland Call and Post, a paper that will serve the community for generations. Why does an inventor of mechanical devices become a media mogul? Because Garrett understands something fundamental. Mechanical inventions solve immediate problems, but institutions solve structural ones. His own heroism was minimized. His own genius was erased. He was forced to wear a mask to make his inventions work. But he could build something that would prevent the next generation from suffering the same fate. A newspaper doesn't just report events. It documents them. It creates a permanent record. It says, this happened. This person existed. This achievement was real. You cannot erase what has been printed. The Cleveland Call becomes Garrett's most enduring invention. Long after his death, it continues to tell the stories of Black excellence, Black achievement, Black life. It's a shield against amnesia, a weapon against erasure. Garrett Morgan dies on July 27, 1963. He's 86 years old. The year of his death is significant. It's the same year as the March on Washington. The same year Martin Luther King Jr. delivers the I Have a Dream speech. The same year the civil rights movement reaches its crescendo. Garrett lives long enough to see the beginning of a change he spent his entire life fighting for. His traffic signal still governs every intersection on Earth. His safety hood technology influenced the gas masks used by soldiers in World War I, though he received almost no credit. His hair refining company provided financial independence to thousands of Black entrepreneurs who followed his model. But his greatest legacy might be the newspaper, the institution that says, we will not be forgotten. We will not be erased. Our genius will be documented. Our stories will be told. Garrett Morgan saved lives while wearing a mask, not to protect himself from smoke, but from racism. He was forced to hide his face so his invention could reach the people who needed it. He graduated, as he said, from the school of hard knocks and cruel treatment. He paid the invisible tax that America levies on Black genius. The question isn't just what he achieved despite the obstacles. The question is, what could he have achieved without them? What could he have invented if he didn't have to spend years performing as Big Chief Mason? What breakthroughs were lost to the exhaustion of constantly fighting for basic recognition? And how many other Garrett Morgans never got the chance to even try? How many brilliant minds were crushed before they could build their hair refining companies, before they could secure the financial independence necessary to pursue their humanitarian visions? How many life-saving inventions died because their creators couldn't survive the violence of erasure? Every yellow light is a reminder. You're living in a world shaped by Black genius that had to hide to survive. The air you breathe in emergencies, the safe passage through intersections, the very infrastructure of modern safety, all of it built on the backs of people who weren't allowed to take credit for their own minds. Garrett Morgan paid the price, but he made sure we'd know his name. And through institutions like the Cleveland Call, through channels like this one, we make sure the next generation knows it too. The School of Hard Knocks had one graduate who refused to let his diploma be erased. Remember his name. Remember the price he paid. And ask yourself, what are we doing to make sure no one has to pay it again? Subscribe to Black Legacy, where we make the heroes the hero they are.